Hello. I'm here in Listerfield Park. Look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's a few people there by the beach. I guess I could call it a beach. This is a lake, and then there's some trails, there's some mountain hikes, those kind of things. I'm just walking by the lake here while I shoot the video, and I want to talk to you about the three, literally the only three countries that I actually think it's still worth immigrating to in, well, 2024/25. And I'm using a very specific definition of migration here. So a very broad definition would be moving out of the country for any reason into a foreign country that you're not a citizen of. So that would be like ultimate level broad. But that's not what I'm thinking here. What I'm thinking here specifically is when you move into other countries, into a country that you see as better than your own, mostly for financial reasons, for making more money, for getting better job opportunities, for getting a better quality of life, and your income is going to be related to that country you're moving into. So I wouldn't consider, in my analysis today, expats, for example, who are like American, Canadian. They move to Thailand, they move to Vietnam, but they would never be moving there if it was actually for the money, if it was actually to get a job there. So with this narrow, specific, narrow-minded type of immigration, I really do believe that we've got three very, very good options. They're not as good as they used to be, that's true, but they're still like by far and away the best in the world. The first is the country I am right now, Australia. And you can really see how much of a difference it is to be in Australia, to work in Australia, when you move here and you realize that there's a lot of Japanese people here, that there's a lot of Germans, a lot of Italians, a lot of English people here, and that they came here for the money as well. Because those are countries that typically you would move to for money. Like people move to the UK for better quality of life, for more money. People move to Germany for that. People even move to Japan for that. But those citizens of those countries are coming here. And you don't see that in most of the developed world. Like if you go to Spain, it's mostly Latinos working there. If you go to Portugal, it's mostly Brazilians, Latinos, maybe Asians. And of course, there's a lot of those as well here. But the fact that it's worth it for someone to drop everything back home in Europe, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in England, and come here just because of the difference of the salary. It really shows you how much of a different level Australia is in terms of not only salaries, but also quality of life in general, the amount of hours that you actually have to work per week, the nature, of course, it's absolutely gorgeous, and the fact that they're not as many people here as there are in Europe, which makes everything seem a little more spread out, you know, a little more, everything's further away, but it gives you a little bit more, I would say, gives you a little more quiet, a little more peace of mind, you know? And so, Australia, if you compare it to other countries that people might be considering, Kiwis also move here. So if you're thinking of New Zealand, Australia is literally like brain draining all of the Kiwi labor force because they just move around they move across the Tasmanian Sea and they make more money and they're treated as citizens like because of the pack and all that. Like it's very, very easy for New Zealand citizens to move to Australia. So if developed country if citizens of developed countries are still moving here, it means that they've got something right, you know? They really have something good and altogether. The second country I'm going to talk about is Switzerland, and I've been there many times. I was there three different occasions just in the past year, and it's truly a remarkable country. There's no other way to put it. Everything really does work, and again, that's where the Germans are going, that's where the Italians are going, that's where the French are going. You see like 30% of the population was born abroad, and there's a clear reason for it. It truly is a country where everything works. And contrary to Australia, which is, well, far away from everything, which might be a turnoff, Switzerland is right in the middle of well, of world history pretty much. It's right in the middle of Europe. It's not too far from, it's not far at all actually from Italy, France, Germany, but it's also not far from, in the grand scheme of things, it's not far from North Africa, it's not far from the Middle East. And so it really becomes a very, very unique and attractive country to migrate to. And to be fair, I don't see any Swiss citizens here in Australia. And from what I know, they earn at least as good of a wage in Switzerland as they do here in Australia. And so it really is like a apples to apples comparison in that sense. Of course, if you don't know Italian, French, and especially German, it might be a little bit hard for you to get a job and to integrate yourself in Switzerland. Definitely is a much more closed-off country than Australia is, and with an infinitely harder immigration system for non-EU citizens, at least, when compared to Australia. Australia is still like very much open, where if you want to come, you get a student visa, you get a temporary graduate visa, and then you can even sponsor yourself, or you can find an employer to sponsor you, which is a little bit easier. So it's definitely more on the viable side than Switzerland is. But those are two like top-notch countries where if you think of Germany, the Germans are moving to Switzerland, man. If you're thinking of France, the French are moving to Switzerland. If you think of Italy, the Italians are moving everywhere, including Switzerland and Australia especially. So it's something to think about. Like, if you're gonna move, you might as well move where it's best, you know, because you're already gonna have to learn another language. You're gonna be really, really far away from family. You're gonna have all those hardships of going through migration law and everything. So you might as well go not for number 5, not for number 7, but literally for number 1. And Australia and Switzerland really are fighting for this top spot. And the third country, which most people are going to hate me for claiming it is so, but it's true, is the United States. Because the amount of sheer opportunity in the US is absolutely insane. And if you're really aiming for like a high-level business, for a high-level startup, for a high-level entrepreneur career and all that, America is number 1. But even if you're like in a lower level job, like if you're a waiter, if you're a barista or something, and you're in one of the major cities like New York, like LA, honestly, yeah, most of the major cities in America, you're still making a very decent amount of money on international standards. And I don't want to hear about cost of living because it's already factored in. It's already factored in. I know it's expensive, but it's much easier to live in America, even on a lower wage salary, than it is to live in, I don't know, Brazil or Vietnam on a lower wage salary, or even Italy on a lower wage salary, to be fair. And the quality of life you get for that, like in Italy on a lower wage salary, you wouldn't even dream of owning a car. You wouldn't even dream of having many things that you just get as a given just by living in America. And it's the truth. That's why so many people want to move there. That's why 15% of the entire American population right now is foreign-born. And that is insane when you think about it, because there are 300 million Americans. It's not like Switzerland and Australia where the population is relatively small. So I'm talking like in terms of sheer number of people wanting to move to America. It's insane. And they move there and they stay there. If it was a lie, if it was just a dream, if it wasn't true, they would move to America and then leave. I mean, most of them are illegals. They definitely they would want to leave if they saw that American wasn't as good as they claim to be. But it is. That's the thing. And if you're Australian, even if you're Swiss, and you have a high-level career, if you're willing to move to America, you are going to make more money. And that is almost just a fact. It's how the world works right now. And like I said, if you're in Australia, for example, you're going to see a lot of nationalities from top-tier countries working here in low-level positions. You're going to see Germans, you're going to see Japanese, you're going to see English people. And you know what you're not going to see? you're not going to see Americans. No matter what you say, there's no low-income Americans taking profit of the working holiday visa and coming to Australia and working here instead of America. They might be doing that, and I'm sure there's some, but in terms of sheer number, it's not proportional. And the reason for that is they've got it pretty well in America. I know plenty of people in my travels and as I was traveling, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds who have like a part-time job in America or a remote job in America, or they worked in a ski resort for 3 or 4 months during winter, and it allows them to literally travel the world for the rest of the year with just the savings they had during those few months. And it might not be a long-term life goal. It might not be something that you should be doing for decades after decades, but it is a sign that it's a very solid economy where you can still save money and where your money, when you go abroad, goes really, really far. And so me, as an immigrant myself, those are definitely the 3 countries I would consider the most. And honestly, if you're moving to Canada, Canada will be just like, you'll earn less in America, you'll earn less in Australia, the weather will be worse, it will be more expensive, there will be more taxes, and yeah, there's just like, there's very few advantages in that sense, you know. Same for New Zealand. In New Zealand, there's a saying for the Kiwis always tell me. It's, in New Zealand, you make less money than Australia, you pay more taxes than Australia, and then everything's more expensive than Australia. So it's really, if you're going to move, you might as well move. You might as well move where you're treated best, where you're going to earn the most bang for your buck. And like I said, doesn't apply to expats, doesn't apply to people who have already got maybe an online income, an online business. Maybe you should move to, I don't know, Dubai or Thailand or whatever, get tax benefits, get really low cost of living. But if you're moving for the money, if you're moving for the best jobs, if you're moving for the best average middle income quality of life, those are the 3 countries for you. Especially since now the Nordics are really cracking down on immigration. And honestly, Nordics are just so small, and even they don't compare. I mean, Denmark and Norway are very wealthy, but they're not as wealthy as Switzerland. I don't think they're all as well put together as Australia. There's not as many opportunities, and they're not as well in terms of opportunities as the US either. And then Sweden is actually even worse. Sweden isn't really that well off economically. It's been having a lot of problems with migration. Salaries are not keeping up with like even Denmark and Norway, and it's clearly the poorer of the 3 sisters, so to say, of the 3 Nordic sisters. So yeah, I'm not telling you to move, but if you want to move, I'm definitely telling you that those are probably the 3 countries you should consider, which is why they're harder to move to. It's harder to move to Switzerland than pretty much anywhere else in the world. It's harder to move to America than pretty much anywhere else in the world. And there's a reason for that. Everyone wants to move there. Have a good week.